Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Air District webinar for the West Oakland Zero Emission Grant Program. My name is Chengfeng Wang. I'm a program manager in the Strategic Incentive Division at the Air District. Today, I'm joined by Ken Mack, who is the supervisor for the program, and Sean Newland, who is the program lead for this project, and also Josephine Fang, who is assistant staff specialist, who is supporting this webinar. So during this webinar, Sean will lead us through the presentation, and before that, Josephine will give us a overview of the housekeeping items. And then we will have a question and answer session after Sean goes through the presentation. And with that, I pass this to Josephine to go over the housekeeping items.
Thanks, Chengfeng. We will be recording this webinar. A copy of the presentation and program guidance has been uploaded to the handout section of the webinar. You can download this at any time during the presentation. After the webinar, copies of this presentation will be posted to the program website in 1 to 2 weeks. If you have any audio or visual issues during the webinar, please use the raise hand or chat tools to request assistance, and I will do my best to help troubleshoot the issue. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a questions and answer session. Please use the questions tool to type your questions to us. Questions and answers will be compiled into an FAQ and will be posted to the program website as well. With that, I'll hand this over to Sean to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Josephine, and thank you, Chengfeng. Now for today's agenda. We will begin with a brief introduction and background to the Air District and its grant programs. And then we'll move on to an overview of the West Oakland Zero Emission Grant Program, including program eligibility and key program requirements. Then we'll talk about the application process and the schedule for the program. Then we'll move on to information on the funding source and co-funding opportunities. And finally, we will leave time for questions and answers at the end. The Bay Area Air Quality Management District was established in 1955 as the first regional air quality agency in the nation, with the mission to protect and improve public health, air quality, and the global climate. The Air District achieves its mission by regulating stationary sources of air pollution in the 9-county Bay Area, home to around 7 million residents, and by offering grants to public agencies, businesses, and residents to reduce emissions from mobile sources. The Bay Area has made great progress in reducing air pollution, but we recognize that there's still more to be done. The Air District's grants, which aims to incentivize the voluntary reduction of emissions, is one of the key strategies to reduce air pollution caused by mobile sources in the Bay Area. Air District's grant programs are designed to complement planning, regulatory, and outreach efforts to reduce emissions from mobile sources. The West Oakland Zero Emission Grant Program is just one of the many grant programs offered by the Air District this year. In 2019, there's over $100 million in funding available across the Air District's programs. Grant funds are prioritized for communities that are highly impacted by air pollution. These communities are identified through the Community Air Risk Evaluation Program, also known as CARE, and a map of these areas is shown here. Programs are staggered and will be opening throughout the year, so please check our website periodically and sign up to receive notifications for future funding opportunities. The West Oakland Zero Emission Grant Program is designed to reduce air pollution within West Oakland. West Oakland is highly impacted by emissions, especially from diesel vehicles, equipment coming from port operations, and from traffic along nearby highways. Only projects located within West Oakland and the port are eligible. More information on the eligible area will be discussed on the next few slides. This program is offering $600,000 in funding to help applicants purchase zero-emission vehicles and equipment. To be eligible, projects must qualify for at least $10,000 in program funding. Applicants may submit multiple applications. However, no one applicant may request more than $600,000 total in program funding. Also, I want to reiterate that awards for this round will be made on a first-come, first-served basis, which is a change from previous rounds, which were competitive. We are accepting applications from any public agencies, businesses, and nonprofit organizations who own and operate vehicles and equipment within the eligible area. This program offers funding to a wide range of vehicles and equipment, some examples of which are listed here. Other types of vehicles and equipment may be considered, as long as the project involves going from using petroleum fuel to zero emission. Please contact us directly if you have other types of equipment in mind. The eligible areas within West Oakland, as shown in this map, which can also be found in the program guidance located on the program website. The eligible area is the area bounded on the north by approximately I-80, I-580, and is west of approximately I-980 down to Oakland's Inner Harbor and including the Port of Oakland. You may recall that there were 2 earlier solicitations for this program which had different eligible areas. For this round, which is the final round of the program, the eligible area is the West Oakland community only, as shown here. Projects must propose to purchase new zero-emission vehicles and equipment that operate in this area. Vehicles can travel outside of the area, but projects will be evaluated and awards calculated only on the portion of miles or time operating inside the eligible area. Next, we will highlight some key requirements of the program. This is not a complete list, so please refer to the program guidance on the program website for a full list. The purpose of this program is to transition vehicles and equipment in West Oakland away from petroleum fuel use and to zero emissions, and to do so quickly. To accomplish this, the program requires applicants to have not yet started their projects, for the projects to be voluntary, meaning the project vehicles or equipment are not being used to meet any legal requirements, such as regulations or ordinances, and that the project is ready to be implemented. Applicants must place orders for the new vehicles and equipment within 3 months of the project being under contract, and all project equipment must be placed into service by June 30th, 2021. This time frame is a requirement of the funding source, and there is no possibility of extension. And finally, these new vehicles and equipment need to be maintained and operated for a minimum of 5 years. Applicants must submit a complete application with required supporting documentation by the application deadline, which is 4 p.m. on June 30th, 2019. Applicants are strongly encouraged to submit their complete applications as soon as possible, as there is no guarantee that funding will still be available by the application deadline. Eligible projects received after program funding is exhausted will be placed on a contingency list in the order they are received, and may be able to still receive funding in the case funding becomes available. Because this grant only pays for a portion of the purchase cost, applicants are responsible for all remaining costs. Match funding must be provided and may be stacked with other grant funding sources. This will be discussed in more detail later in the presentation. It is also important to note that grant funding is made on a reimbursement basis, so applicants must be able to cover all costs upfront. Applicants will also be required to report on progress until the vehicles and equipment are in service, then monthly for the first 6 months of operation, and then annually thereafter. Applicants need to maintain insurance during the operational period. The requirements are listed in Appendix B of the program guidance. Also, applicants must cooperate with audits and allow inspections of the vehicle or equipment. Projects must also not acknowledge the funding source in any promotional materials and on the vehicles or equipment funded through the program. Now I'll go over the process for the program, and the next few slides will go over each of these in more detail. First, applicants have to apply and get approval before going out and ordering the new vehicles and equipment. If you place orders before being approved, meaning having a signed funding agreement in hand, you will be disqualified. You'll need to get a quote showing both the price and the delivery date as part of the application, but these quotes cannot be a commitment to purchase. A commitment to purchase includes placing a deposit or a down payment, entering into a contract to purchase, or signing a purchase order. Applications will be reviewed and evaluated by the Air District as they are received, and projects will be awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. Next is project implementation, meaning purchasing the vehicles or equipment and placing them into service. Then finally, to maintain and operate the vehicles and equipment for 5 years. Now we will go over more of the details of the application step. In these slides, I will be talking about the steps that need to be taken by the applicant and the steps that will be taken by the Air District. Applicants need to submit the application online and mail in a paper copy with all attachments listed here. The Air District will review applications periodically in the order they are received and issue awards to eligible projects on a first-come, first-served basis. Awarded applicants will be sent funding agreements, which must be signed by both parties before award is finalized and a notice to proceed is sent. Again, applicants that start projects before the notice to proceed will be disqualified. To apply to this program, first, submit an online application at the website and upload the required documents. Then print out one copy of the documents and mail them to the Air District at the address listed here. Again, all application materials, including the mailed copy, must be received by 4 p.m. on June 30th. One of the documents needed as part of the application is a project description. Please include the following information when describing the project. This can be either in a table or a narrative form. A list of the new zero-emission vehicles and equipment that is to be purchased, the cost of each of these new vehicles and equipment, the amount of grant funding you are requesting for each new vehicle and equipment. Remember that the max is 50% of the costs. Also note that the final award is based on the amount of petroleum reduced and may be lower than 50% of the cost. And finally, a description of where, how, and how much each of these new vehicles and equipment will be used. This must include the percent operating within the eligible area. And please also attach supporting documentation as part of the vehicle and equipment information. And as a reminder, this information will be used to determine the eligibility of your project. And if awarded, you will be contractually obligated to operate the vehicle and or equipment in this manner for 5 years. In step 2, the Air District will review and evaluate applications. Applicants are responsible for responding to questions or requests for additional information from the Air District. And the Air District will review and evaluate projects in the order they are received. More information on how the Air District evaluates applications will be discussed on the next slide. After evaluating the project, the Air District will then make recommendations for awards to eligible applicants. For projects over $100,000, these will need to be approved by our board of directors. These meetings typically occur once per month and will be brought in front of the board at the earliest scheduled meeting through the month of September. Once approved by our board of directors, we will issue notice of proposed awards and send out funding agreements to applicants for signature. The Air District will evaluate each project for eligibility based on the project location and the equipment and or vehicle type. Applications will be reviewed and projects awarded in the order they are received. The award amount is calculated for eligible projects by multiplying the amount of petroleum consumption reduced by $19 per gallon. The amount of fuel reduced is based on the vehicle and or equipment and the usage information provided in your application. Once a notice to proceed is sent, the applicant may place orders for the vehicle and or equipment. Orders must be placed within 3 months of award and project sponsors must submit evidence that the order is placed to the Air District once complete. Vehicles and equipment must be delivered, registered, or installed, and in service by June 30th, 2021, and the project sponsors will submit a reimbursement request after this is completed. Again, applicants need to obtain and maintain the insurance specified in Appendix B of the program guidance, as well as report on progress every 6 months. The Air District will release 85% of funds following the equipment's deployment and its review of reports and the reimbursement request. Grant funds are released on a reimbursement basis, and 85% of funds will be released after vehicles are placed into service, and the remaining 15% will be released after 6 months of successful operation. Funds can only be used to reimburse for eligible costs as listed here. Again, this program only covers a portion of the project's costs, so all other costs are the responsibility of the applicant. After vehicles and/or equipment are placed into service, project sponsors must operate them for 5 years in the manner described in the funding agreement. Insurance must be maintained during this time, and for the first 6 months, project sponsors will submit monthly operating reports. After those first 6 months, operational reports are submitted annually. The Air District This is an overview of the program schedule. Important dates to note are that the applications are due by 4 p.m. on June 30th, 2019. And please remember that applications are currently being accepted. Awards are scheduled to be made starting in early spring through September, or until all funding is exhausted. Again, all vehicles and equipment must be ordered within 3 months of the contract date, and all vehicles and equipment must be in service by June 30th, 2021. Now for some background information on the source of the funding for the West Oakland Zero Emission Grant Program. Funding for this program comes from a class settlement, and the case information for the settlement is listed on this slide. The purpose of the fund is to achieve clean air and fuel efficiency benefits for California consumers. And up to $600,000 in first come, first served funding is available in this final round. Projects may also be eligible for co-funding with other grants, examples of which are the Carl Moyer Program, the California Hybrid and Zero Emission Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Project, also known as HVIP, and Transportation Fund for Clean Air, also known as TFCA, as match funding. Projects that can be co-funded with TFCA must be on-road mobile sources or fueling infrastructure. And examples of TFCA eligible projects are listed here, as well as examples of TFCA ineligible projects. If interested, please contact us to discuss. That ends the presentation portion of today's webinar. We will now pause for 5 minutes to allow you to submit questions through the webinar's dialog box, and we will return shortly thereafter to respond to your questions. Thank you. We did not receive any questions. So with that, we will go ahead and end this webinar, but please feel free to reach out to us if any questions do come up at the contact information listed on this slide. And thank you for attending.